What's up, everybody? Welcome to What's in Your Glass. As you know, I'm your host, Carmelo Anthony. Before we get going, let's first welcome today's guest, man. You guys may know him as an acclaimed director, writer, producer, whose latest film, King Richard, as we all know, portrays the life of the Williams sisters and their father, Richard Williams. So again, please welcome to the show, Reinaldo Marcus Green, my brother. Cheers.
Hello, thank you.
Welcome.
Appreciate you for having me.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about today's selection before we jump into it. So I'm drinking. It's a new Pinot Noir. I don't even know. I think Sonoma County. It's called Blood. I want to say Blood Root or something like that. Incredible though. I was in Atlanta the other day. I was at a restaurant and I asked them to pour me a glass from just a glass of wine. They poured me this, and I instantly fell in love with it. So I don't know what it is. I don't know who it's from. But this wine is incredible. What's in your glass?
I got a little Scotch whiskey. It was a gift, for the show that I just completed. We Own This City with George Pelecanos and David Simon, HBO, and my editor gave me this, so figured I would. Oh,
that's a good gift. That's a good gift.
It was a great gift. It's a beautiful little smooth one, and just wet the lips.
Indeed. Let's get into it, man. Your upbringing, right, was anything but, I would say, linear before becoming a filmmaker, and we'll get to touch into each of those stops first. But what was it like for you? I was born in Brooklyn, in Red Hook, so I know what it was like for me growing up in New York. What was it like for you growing up in New York? What were some of your interests and passions growing up?
Yeah, so look, I was born in the Bronx because my dad he was from the South Bronx, both my parents. And we were actually living in East Orange at the time, and my mom's water broke, and he was like, "You're going to the Bronx just to be born in the Bronx." My dad was very Richard Williams. He was like, "My kids are gonna be born in the Bronx, both my brother and I." And but we actually grew up in Staten Island because at the time, Staten Island had good public schools, and my dad was working in the city and wanted us to go to the best schools that he could get us into. And so we actually lived right around the corner from Method Man's mom. And so we were just right there, right across the Stapleton projects. Not in the projects, but adjacent,
Indeed.
And, that's where we went to school. And Staten Island was, as you know, it's it's not like the other parts of the city. It's not the most diverse part of the city either. And at least it wasn't when we were growing up. A lot of racism in Staten Island that we grew up with. Obviously, Eric Garner happened there, and you kind of knew that. And so yeah, it was like any other city for sure. Public high school, 3,000 kids, and we were just trying to make our way. Single parent household. My father raised us, Black father, older brother, and that was the thing. But my father was like raising in his mind a baseball player, so like that was my first. We were on the baseball field playing 3 different leagues, and we got pretty good. I played college ball. I had 2 major league tryouts. It just didn't work. A D3 walk-on, not great grades, and didn't have the coaching or the infrastructure to really take it further than that. And then it was get a job like everybody else. And so that was sort of it. We humble beginnings, good teachers. That New York City life, but we had good parents, and we had a father that was there, and we were very lucky for that. He preached education, made sure that we got that. And I had so many other friends that didn't have fathers in the house, and went other ways. And so we were lucky. We were lucky, like literally like my best friends and people that I know that didn't quite make it out, and took very different paths. So, it's tough to know that you grow up with folks that didn't have pops or moms there or somebody in the house to guide them. That after school program that they found after school in other ways.
Absolutely.
We were very, very blessed to have that. And I had an older brother in the household that was studious and went to Dartmouth and did the right thing. So I had a path. Folks that were guiding me in the right way. So I was blessed in that way for sure.
So did sports play a role in your life growing up? I mean, I know you said baseball, but like I played baseball is my first love, like my first love, and I think that's the Puerto Rican side in me that I gravitated towards baseball before basketball. But what was baseball it for you? Was that like, okay, this is my way out? I'm locked into this at a young age. What was that like?
Yeah, so that's funny because my mom is Puerto Rican. So, we for sure baseball was like what I thought I was gonna do. Like legitimately at some point in high school, because our high school team was actually really good. And we went to the city championship for New York where they shut down the school. You play in Yankee Stadium. I was the number 4 hitter on my high school team. So, I was like playing as high as I could go in New York City sports. And then, when I went to college, I didn't really have a position. I was the backup catcher to the number 1 catcher in the state. So imagine like, I'm really good, but there was just somebody a little better than me, so I had to find a position. So I was a catcher converted into a pitcher in college. So I had a live arm. And so I was throwing pretty hard, got 2 major league tryouts, Mets and the Reds. So I took it as far as I could go, with the resources that we had. We didn't have any money, but so there were no like camps, my dad wasn't paying for the $3,000 camp.
No, hell no.
There wasn't. Yeah, there was the wall. Go. You want to throw the ball in the backyard, like throw it as hard as you can. He did the best he could, but we just didn't have it. But like there are no regrets. Like I think I don't know. You're a professional athlete, and there's just a different grind to that life. A travel, you go where the teams are, you go where the league, like it's a very different way of life. And I don't think anybody really is prepared for that part of the sport. You just want to play, but it's like, no, nobody just plays. Like there's all this other stuff that you have to deal with as a professional athlete and what goes into actually playing the sport. And I don't know if I was really like prepared for that part of it. That's a life commitment into being that. And I'm just happy that I had that foundation, because I think being an athlete is how I approach directing, for sure. It's how I approach teaching when I was teaching, and it's how I approach every job I've ever had, was being a quarterback of a team, or how I'm going to lead this team to a championship. Just that mindset. And so I think I love having that background, as an athlete to, because I think it's helped me in everything else that I've done in life, for sure.
Facts, absolutely. Moving into the film space. Your brother Rashad was a filmmaker who eventually convinced you to leave Wall Street. I want to make sure I got that right, though. I want to make sure I got that right. Explain that. How did that go down?
So, look, my brother was always like, just this, like, to me, he's the God, right? Like he was everything I ever wanted to be, or be like. I would wear his clothes or wear his shoes, like put ketchup stains on all the stuff, like, just older brother crushing it. He was always 3.5 years faster, bigger, stronger, right in your face with all of it. And it was amazing because he was telling our stories. So he went to Dartmouth, started studying drama, and then went to NYU and became a filmmaker. And of course, once he started telling his stories, he was telling our stories. He was reaching into the family and like, oh, like these were also shared experiences that I knew about. And I didn't think there were things that anybody else would care to hear. There,
Right.
like we don't see these. And so once I started to see that there was a pathway towards actually making it as a filmmaker, I thought like, man, that's the closest thing to being an athlete. The closest thing to being an athlete is being a filmmaker. Like the freedom of life is the freedom to choose, like the freedom to create. And I thought, okay, let me just see if I could even get into film school. I don't even know what that means. And so I remember like using my office on Wall Street to make a little short film. My brother was doing sound. I submitted that short, and sure enough, I got into film school and said, you know what? Look, I'm 27 years old. I don't have a wife. I don't have any kids. Like, why not? Let me try. The worst thing that comes out of this is an education from NYU.
Right.
That's a pretty good fallback plan for me.
That's actually a great fallback plan when you really think about it.
Yeah, and that was it. So I bet on myself, and said, look, I'm going to take on this crazy student loan. You know, it was crazy. It was like 300 plus. And I was like, man, I don't know how I'm going to pay it back, but I'm going to figure it out. And I have to bet on myself right now, because if I can't make $300,000 with 2 master's degrees, then I don't deserve to be doing. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of mindset. I was like, look, that should be chump change.
Right.
And sure enough, you know, look, it wasn't chump change. I definitely had to work with a couple.
No, of course not. But relatively speaking, I mean, when you look at it like that,
where I see myself and what I think I can do, it should be just an investment in myself and life at this point. And I knew, look, I was 27. I had already gotten to a certain level, so I thought, okay, if I could do that with something that I'm not that passionate about, imagine if I am passionate about something that I can do. And that's what film school was for me. And so there was no kind of looking back after that. I finally found myself, my voice, allowed myself to go into a space that, you know, I didn't know it was going to be, you know, how it was going to come out, the results, but I felt like at least I found my calling, so to speak.
So then you go to film school, right? And then, you know, where you studied under Spike. You study under Spike Lee, who's incredible. How did he help shape your career and like take you on kind of your new path? Like, what was his influence with that?
Well, I was very because I was on my own and really hustling. Like, I felt like you have to sign up for office hours with Spike. Like, he doesn't reach out to you. No. You know what I mean? So I was like, how do I get them office hours? Like, oh, you don't want them? Like, I was trading baseball cards, trading basketball. Like, yo, let me just, I'll give you this. Let me get your office hours. So I was just hustling because Spike only teaches third-year students. So you don't get Spike until your third year. And so I was like, I got to wait I'm not waiting 2 years to meet with Spike. He's on the 9th floor. So I was signing up for hours in my first and second years, and just half hour here, and just having him watch, it started with him watching my short films. Like, hey, Spike, could you just watch this? Little feedback, little things like that. But his work ethic, the guy he doesn't, nobody works harder. It's oh, wow, you show up at the gym and there's just that guy that's there before you.
That's Spike.
Spike is just there. He's just there before you. And he'll leave early, but he's there before you.
Right. Absolutely.
He's earned the right to leave a little earlier, but he's early, he's on time. He watches everything from every student. And he's not going to do it for you. Spike is that tough love kind of guy. He's very much like, look, this is how I did it. I'm not telling you how you're going to do it. This is how I did it. But if you ask him questions, he'll answer.
Right.
So I would just ask him a lot of questions. Hey, Spike, how'd you do this? How would you write a script? Okay, you wrote it on index cards. Okay, so you broke it down, you write that. And he showed me the index cards. So I went out and bought index cards. I would ask him how you wake up at what time and you finish at what time? Okay, so just how he practices, and I just started trying to mimic that. And it didn't necessarily work for me, but at least it gave me an understanding of how it was possible. So I tried it the Spike way and realized all right, okay, that's not me. I have to do it my way, but at least I know, okay, if he does 5 hours, I just need to know how I could do 5 hours. It might not be 5 hours in a row because that don't work for me. I need to do 2 hours here, an hour here, 2 hours later, but I'll try to get my 5 hours how I do it. And so I just took little things that I could from that and tried to, lean on him as a resource in terms of casting. So John David Washington, Anthony Ramos, people that I've worked with, Spike was the people that introduced me to their work because I didn't know the work before Spike. And
so what would you say? What would you say some of the lessons that you learned from Spike?
I mean, it's just not giving up, determination. I know it sounds very generic because it's hard because Spike is a do-it-yourself kind of person, and a pick yourself from the bootstraps. And I like that he wasn't like, I'm gonna do this for you or make a phone call. I'm a producer. I did all of this. And what Spike did was he would bring in guest speakers into the class. And so Wynn Thomas, who ended up being the production designer of King Richard, I met in Spike's class. Wow. And he did Spike Lee. And I remember I was like, oh man, I had his contact number. So when I got this movie, I was like, man, I want the production designer of Spike Lee's movie to do my thing. So I hit him up out of the blue. He didn't even remember meeting me. 5 years ago. I'm the student of film. Now I'm directing Will Smith in a film. Like, I have an opportunity to work with somebody that Spike worked with, but I met him very organically in the class. And so Spike gave us access to real talented people who were working in the industry, saying, hey, that's up to you to network. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I don't know how many people got Wynn's contact information.
You did, though.
Wynn, what's up? You know, like, one day I might be able to get tickets to sit on the floor. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to hustle. And that was just the attitude. So Spike was just a great resource and a mentor in a way that, like, I don't know. I could ask him anything and he'll respond. You know, he'll definitely respond. He may not respond right away, but he will respond. And I appreciate him being accessible to me, being as big of a star as he is, for sure.
Absolutely. Big shout out to Spike for that. Diving into some of your work that really spoke to me, right? Your film, Monsters and Men, right? They debuted in 2018. It tells the story of the aftermath of a police killing of a black man, but told through the eyes of a bystander who filmed the act. Black police officer, and I think with the high school baseball phenom inspired to take a stand. A powerful film at a pivotal time in our country. You wrote it, you directed it. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, it was, look, a lot of those characters were based on my real life. Like, the baseball player was a combination of myself and my brother, and so I kind of created a character. The police officer was sort of loosely based on my father, who worked for the Department of Investigation. He had a gun, he had a shield, but he was also a black man, so I understood that experience. And I also delivered pizza where Eric Garner got killed. So I knew very well that experience. And so I created a story that spoke to me in my community where I grew up, that I was hoping that could have, universal appeal, right? Like, this is happening in cities all over the country. It's basically happening all over the world, but definitely in America at an alarming rate. And we got to do something about it. But I think what I didn't want to do was not value the other part of the conversation, right? Because I think what we end up getting to is pointing the finger, look at, like, and then nothing happens. No change happens. Nothing moves the needle forward. All right, so I wanted to at least hear the perspective from the other side, because I'm sure you probably grew up with friends that are cops. I got plenty of friends that are cops. I got family members that are police officers. I don't understand why they become police officers, but they do. Like, I have to respect the fact that they do. I don't know if it's fear. I don't know what happened, but I grew up with plenty of friends that are police officers that are still on the force today. And so the actual movie was born out of a conversation I had with a real cop. So the dinner scene in the movie with John David Washington was almost verbatim a conversation I had with a friend. We were at Sundance celebrating a short film. He was literally in my short film, a cop. He wanted an aspiring actor. He was in the short. We were at Sundance celebrating the short, and we started talking about the Eric Garner case, just two friends who grew up in Staten Island. And all of a sudden, what started off as a regular, just conversation sort of ended in a heated debate where he saw something very different on the tape than I saw. And I was really kind of taken aback from it. I didn't really understand. And he started going off about domestic violence, all this other stuff that wasn't on the tape. And I was like, yeah, but Brian, like, this guy should still be alive. I'm not saying he wasn't doing something wrong, but he should be alive. Eric Garner should be alive today. And that conversation really just like the hairs on my skin were standing up when I had it. We were both like, it was on edge. Not like we were going to get to blows or anything, but it definitely felt like two men having a real heated discussion that got uncomfortable. And, and I thought, okay, that's the moment I knew I had something to say. I was like, I have to hear that side of the story, because there's a lot of police officers that feel the way he feels. And I didn't know that. I just didn't know. I was sort of blinded by it. I didn't know that, oh, this is what they're going to work with every day. All this other stuff that has nothing. Like, I just feel like I needed to hear that. He was a white police officer. And I just didn't want the conversation to be black and white. So I ended up, I thought it would be better for the film to hear it from a police officer's perspective. And if I took the white out of it, if I cast a black person to play that role, it would be about the issue. It would be about the issue of policing, rather than, oh, it's a white person that doesn't like, I just didn't want to get into that. I wanted to talk about the gray area that we often just don't see on film. We don't hear that side. We don't hear the perspective. We don't see how these things affect multiple communities. Anthony Ramos plays the Latino character. I've got John David Washington, the black character. And I just wanted a conversation to be had around what's happening in our country. And that's what the film is set up to do, is just spark conversation. It's not to solve anything, but it's certainly to have you engage in meaningful conversation around things that need to be addressed in our country.
And uncomfortable conversations too, because a lot of times we don't want to have those uncomfortable conversations. When you see two men having a uncomfortable discussion, somebody from the outside may interpret that as, a fight about to break out, blows about to break out, or something. But those conversations is needed, especially by men. When you have two men having a real discussion like that, it's impactful at the end of the day, because I see where you coming from, you see where I'm coming from, but I'm still standing on what I'm standing on. You standing on what you standing on.
Exactly, but where do we go?
Right, absolutely.
That? And that's where I feel, and look, as a country, that's what it is. We've created, Mets versus the Yankees, where it's like, well, that's not how, that's wonderful when you're watching a game, but this is the game of life.
Right.
You know what I mean? After we take the jerseys off, we're still human beings, and we're not rooting for just one team anymore. It can't just be a blanket. If I'm a Democrat and my we're not doing the right thing, we can't just ignore the fact that this thing's wrong on both sides. We both can find some common ground. I don't know what it is. Maybe Obama thinking or whatever. There's got to be some common ground we could come to, rather than just being so polarized. And I hope the film, hopefully it will have a second life. It didn't get out there in the way that I wish that it could. It was a little muted, but it certainly opened up doors for me personally as a filmmaker, which is great, to be able to support my family. But I do think, I wish that the film will have a second life, and maybe people will go back and say, maybe there is more here. There was something that he was trying to do that is still very relevant today.
Well, I mean, it did win the special jury award for outstanding first feature at Sundance, so it did something for you.
No, for sure. Personally, it's good. But if you won MVP and your team lost, the chance, it's nice.
It's bittersweet. It's bittersweet. It's bittersweet because certainly, yes, I certainly have. It opened up doors that never would have opened for me in incredible ways. But as you know, your legacy is defined by your championships and the teams you play for, ultimately that's what having a career versus a job, you're and that you will have, right? Your legacy is what you put up, and the numbers speak for themselves. And hopefully in the canon of films that I make, it will be one of those things that would say, okay, that was his first movie. Okay, he put that up. He put those numbers up that year. That's wonderful. And I hope that it can stand the test of time. That's the plan. Reasonable Doubt.
Yeah.
Think about that. The album Reasonable Doubt. That was the first album for years. Everybody overlooked that album until later on it became one of the most prominent albums that Jay ever put together. So like you said, I do hope and wish that more people could see it and get out there, and like you said, to have a second wave.
Yeah, The Wire didn't take off right away either. That's
not at all. And I grew up in The Wire, so I knew it. I knew what it was like.
Yeah.
No, it ain't take off for a while. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
But we got another banger coming, man. I just worked with David Simon on he's back in Baltimore 20 years later with this show, We Own the City. And it's starring John Bernthal, who was in obviously King Richard. But it also has a lot of fresh new faces, bringing back some old characters. So I think you're gonna love it.
I like that. I like that. How when you're putting these films together, you're directing these films, when you're in your creative process, how difficult is it to deal with such like an emotional subject matter, especially at the time in the country now where tensions are high, police brutality is at the forefront of people's minds, and we just know that we have to keep pushing forward. How do you deal with that? You know, that's such emotional subject matter.
You know, I think because we have experienced it so much, not that there's a certain armor that we have growing up from certain areas. You become accustomed to what this is. And what I don't want to ever happen is that I become numb to any issue. That I don't want to look at it anymore. I don't want to hear it anymore. I just don't want to see it anymore. I have to find ways to still make that engaging because it's important. And that's my job, right? My job is to say, how do I make this subject matter not a history lesson, but something that's fun and makes you think and shows you a different way to look at something that might just be the same. And that's, look, when you eat a good meal, you're like, it's just chicken at the end of the day. It's the flavor, it's the sauce, it's like, yo, that was the most banging chicken. It's chicken.
Right.
But like it's all of that, it's the preparation. And so I just try to think about like our stories in a way that there's always a new, fresh, exciting way to deal with these subject matters because it is important. But yes, we have to find new ways to engage with it. Can't keep telling the same story in the same way. We have to try to elevate that and there's different angles to it. It's my job to continue to be a voice in the community. That's it. That's how I feel. I'm just one voice. Spike's been doing it for 30 years. I'm the next generation. It's my job to do it until somebody else does it behind me or alongside me. And I'm all for all the other filmmakers doing it and tackling it in their ways. I think there's room for so many of us. And I just support anybody that's doing work like this in the community, period.
Indeed. Before we switch it up, you have so many projects to talk about, but we have to talk about your most recent movie. So that's already won a Golden Globe and has all the buzz this award season. King Richard, all right. For those who don't know, if you're living under a rock, I would say, this movie tells the story of the iconic Venus and Serena Williams and their family growing up in Compton, and of course Richard Williams, who is determined to kind of write his two daughters into history. First, how did you end up with this? We're working on this project.
Well, I think there's probably a lot of different stories, right? But I think the seed was planted at Sundance in 2018.
Oh, okay.
So when I got the award for Monsters and Men, literally the person that physically handed me the award was Jada Pinkett Smith.
Oh, wow.
Little did I know that she was going to go talk to her husband about the films she saw that year. Fast forward 3 years, of course, there were producers that I met and writers, and I had started to do work. So my name was getting out there in the league, so to speak. People started hearing like, oh, who's this guy making noise down at the bottom of the ship? Okay, he's making a little noise. I see what he's doing down there. And then when I think it got to Will and the short list of filmmakers, my name was on that list. So somehow after I met with the producers and I met with the studio and I muscled my way into the room, the first thing Will said to me was, Jada couldn't stop talking about you after Sundance. And so I knew at that moment, it was that film, Monsters and Men, that got me in that room. And what was going to keep me in that room was everything that I thought I could bring to the project. And I think growing up an athlete, growing up with a father that wore those short shorts, I knew, my dad was crazy. He was wild, man. And but I also had an unbreakable bond with my brother. So that Venus and Serena thing was like, I understood that. I understood a black man that could be misunderstood for being outspoken. Like my dad, he didn't hold his tongue, and people don't like that, when you're speaking up about things that are important to you. Good thing my dad had a gun and a shield, so nobody So it was cool to have a dad that at least nobody was messing with my pop.
Right.
It was cool to see, but he definitely had a lot of Richard Williams in him for sure. And then look, although my mom didn't live with us, I knew what it was like to have a mother that would go overlooked for the work that she actually did. And so those components I could bring to the conversation with Will. And look, Will obviously had achieved a lot in his life. He's already, successful, a megastar, but clearly still wants to be great. And I think sometimes greatness is seeking out energy or the right mix of okay, if I'm with this combination, and if you can't tell, I'm very passionate about about what I do, and I bring this is the same way I would talk to Will, and that's the way I talked about the film. I talked about my experience. I'm also a father. I know what that's like, and my perspective of growing up in a similar area to Compton. Now, Staten Island is not, but the hood is the hood. There's not many filmmakers, I would say, that were up for the job that had even close to the experience that I had growing up. And I think Will could see that. He's a dude from Philly. He's not, he lives in nice places now, but he's from the hood. Will,
Absolutely.
Will knows. He's and Will's the kind of dude that could he punch me in the face? I think Will, he would just throw it all away because he could, and that's when when somebody has an edge, okay, I love that about Will, that he just makes you feel like none of this matters.
Right.
I still
That's
like peanut butter. You know what I mean?
That takes a special person to be that confident in who they are and within their own skin to approach life that way. Because some people will misinterpret that and come up with some whole other shit. But Will, I mean, Will is the best, man.
Will's the best. Will's the best.
What can we say?
Will. He's an incredible human being, and I really I have not only positive things to say, and beyond just being a great. I've always loved his acting. I thought he's a great actor. I think, look, ultimately it's the roles you choose,
right?
And this was a picture perfect role. It was a great script written by a great screenwriter, and it was up to me to not mess it up, actually, because there were a lot of great elements that were already built into this. But it could, look, in the wrong hands, this is a cheesy Disney movie. It's a cheesy.
Yeah, for sure.
It's cheesy. Very well if it's in the wrong hands, it's a bad film, and not like subpar bad. And I think I could say, look, I could bring energy to this in a way that's not going to be saccharine, in a way that's not going to sugarcoat anything that's that was hard about their struggle, because that's what's important. And also show that there were 5 sisters, man. Venus and Serena did this with 3 other siblings that were picking up, that were hanging signs. We got to recognize the people that go unnoticed. That mom was working, cooking, and coaching full time. That has to go in this script. This has to go in the movie. And I think just being able to flush out that part of the film, because Will is so domineering, he's such a powerful force, but you without somebody to pass to, right?
Right.
You only do so much, right? But once now all of a sudden you have, oh wait, I could pass the ball and I could dunk, it gives you a lot more dimension to work in. And I think that's what we were able to do, was really create an environment for our star to be a star, and then for other people to also rise. And we created an environment for a real family to be born on screen, a Black family, which you just don't see, who love each other, who support each other, who didn't have that typical infighting we see in every movie, right?
Yeah.
Every movie, it's pitting each other against each other. And it's like, no, let's not do that. Let's support each other. Let's build each other up because it's real. Venus and Serena are like this to this.
For sure.
They are like, I think Venus said to me, Serena's the kind of sister that would skip a match to see me practice.
For sure.
Like, why would I mess with that? I love, like, that's what, but, you know, screenwriter, studio, let's, you know, like, no.
Let's sprinkle it up a little bit.
That's not something that we're going to mess with. We don't slam doors in our house.
Right.
In any other movie, she's slamming the door, running out the house. Like, no. Black families, we don't do that. You're not slamming the door. You know what happens when you slam the door?
Yeah.
You're not talking back. You know what happens when you talk back.
You better not even close the door.
You better 100%. And it's only us. We know that. And that's you could feel that. You could feel that when you're watching a movie that there's an unspoken language. And there's codes that we have that we just get it. We get it. And I think that's what the movie does.
I had Aunjanue Ellis on the show.
Oh my God.
And incredible. And she noticed something she noted how important it was to everyone involved to portray Oracene accurately and like giving her large role as a, like, you know, as well in the family. What was it like you know, working with Will? I mean, you already explained that, so you have to explain that, but how do, like, as a director, how do you toe the line with a star like that?
Well, I think it's sort of finding out, look, he's already achieved so much. So, you know, it's different coaching Joe Burrow than it is coaching Tom Brady.
Facts.
You know, you just have different experience levels, but that doesn't mean that they don't want to be coached.
Right.
They just need different things. And Will needed to be surrounded by what I think is an amazing cast that includes Aunjanue Ellis and John Bernthal and Sanaya Sidney and Demi Singleton and all the girls in that van, Layla Crawford, Daniel Lawson, you know, Michaela Bartholomew, and surrounding them with players that can play. They're not just like showing up, like that are here, that are ready, that are willing to do the work, because now he's not playing by himself. He's not lifting the whole movie. He's got players. You know, Tony Goldwyn. Everybody in the movie is their own star and is their own individual and is doing their job. They are literally doing their job to the very best that they can. And any championship team, that's the way it is. Like, without those people doing that, it's not enough for the star player to carry the whole thing. And I think Will was certainly looking for me to cast that movie, me to surround him, and then guide him to the truth, what we thought was the truth. It started with the prosthetics, right? At first, the studio put him in full prosthetics and they made him look like Richard Williams. And it was incredible from an artistic standpoint. Wow, you can literally change a human being's face. And I was like, that's great, but I want none of it. I don't need Will Smith to look like Richard Williams. And like, look, at the end of the day, it's Will Smith with a nose on. And everybody knows it, and it's distracting. And so what? If you made him look like him, it's not going to make the performance any better. Mm-hmm. And let's focus on what I think Will needs to focus on, which is the performance, not all. Look, it's great when for me, look, sometimes, it's a sleeve or a glove or a costume. And I think for Will, it was costume, right? You put the shorts. I know it's crazy as it sounds. You put short shorts on, immediately he's in character. Like, that's all he needed. He didn't need the nose and the cheekbones and all that other stuff. He just needed that one thing to lynch into who Richard was. And then finding out the right dialect. What's the right balance? That's too much. It's inaudible. The real Richard Williams, you can only understand a third of what he's saying, and no disrespect to him. It's, I don't know. It's something else. History. You could see My man's lived a long, arduous life, but he still looks good. But yeah, he lived it. He lived it. And so I think it was just fine tuning all of those elements that go into the storytelling, right? And then working on like, okay, what is it about Richard that we want to make sure that we hit home and that we don't sugarcoat, and all of the struggles, because we have to manufacture some curves in this movie dramatically, because Richard's right. And dramatically, it's not always like makes for the best drama when your character's just right all the time. Like, he made all the right moves and look, they became. So Richard is a tricky character because he's really actually the only one getting in his own way. It's Richard providing the obstacles for himself. And so we just wanted to make sure that, like, okay, he goes and like the farting or passing gas, like, we're not going to take that out. Like, these are really important attributes to this story. And then discovering the backstory and all of those things and working on that. I think it was constant conversations, a lot of script work. It's like you watch probably tons of tape. As many shots as you take, you've watched as much tape. And that's a lot of the work that we're doing, is a lot of watching tape. In those terms, it's watching tape. What are the defenses do? How are they going to play me? Anticipation. Okay, they're going to be here. Oh, there's 3 ways they can guard me. And it's your best hunch. And then it's making adjustments at halftime. And a lot of what we're doing is very similar. It's strategizing how we're going to tackle these scenes, in what capacity we're going to do. Okay, we need a little humor here. Like, this is too dry. And then allowing Will to improvise, because Will is a rapper by trade, like one of the best improvisational actors I've ever met.
Right.
So I can design a play. Will, okay, go right, left, like, that's my job, right? Design a play. You've got the players, and then Will's like, okay, the play didn't work, but let me go and do this. And you're just like, oh, well, that's why you're paying him the money, because Will can do that extra thing. He can say, Pete Sampras gonna steal your stuff, and it's like, oh, like, who does that? No one said that for Will Smith in the moment, because he's in character, and he deserves all the credit for being able to pivot. But I think because he's so prepared, you can't improvise if you don't know the plays, because then it's just sloppy.
Right. You're just going on doing your own thing.
Improvise if you know the entire play, and then you can navigate. And I think that's what Will really is truly on that level of player, who's able to navigate within scenes, who's able to pivot when things don't feel right, and is able to make a play when you need a play to be made. He's able to make that 3-pointer when it counts. And that's what you're just trying to provide the opportunities for your key player to make the play. That's my job.
He makes it. He makes it.
Make the play.
He makes the right in games. He makes the right in game adjustments. That's it.
Right in game
adjustments. What he does. He makes the right in game adjustments, and his talent and his skill and his experience, it magnifies all of that. So some people just have it, and he has the it factor. And I mean, me personally, I think that these are roles that I love to see Will in, because he tap into something totally different.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when you see it, and when you mention the improvise, you can see it. You can see his skill and his talent coming out in the ball game.
100%. And like, that's what I was very impressed, because look, I've pretty much seen every movie. Just as a black kid growing up, I've seen everything Will's done. Pretty much everything. Good, bad, and different. Like, I still like Will, and I'll just go, all right, he's in it, I'm gonna go see it. It doesn't matter what it is, because it's Will. Right. I didn't see Wild Wild West, but other than that, I'll admit, I'm sorry, Will. I didn't see it. I just didn't think it was gonna be my thing.
I saw the music video.
I saw the trailer. But no. Look, he's to be 52 or 53 or whatever he is. He has the energy of a 30-something-year-old. He's truly, like, committed to being great. He's not, he just has energy. He has energy, and he wants to be great. I think it takes a desire to believe that you can be and that you have support in being that. If Will showed up and like, okay, this team, like you could kind of assess what team you got this year, and then you put a certain level of effort based on what you got. Like, okay,
Right.
well, this is that kind of year.
That's what he brings.
He saw how we were building it. And I think it just motivated him to continue to push. And I think when you have Aunjanue Ellis, okay, this is not any act like this. She's a force to be reckoned with. Like,
Absolutely.
unbelievable talent. And when you and like it's undeniable. You know when, oh wow, I'm in a scene with somebody that's like doing that. There's no greater motivation to come to the court when you have somebody that's doing that. It's like, oh my God, because then it elevates your game. Because now we're really playing. Now we're really being actors. And I think John Bernthal, look, I mean, to go from the Punisher and all the roles that he's done to do this and to be as, chameleon as he is and transform into a tennis coach. I mean, unbelievable. Tony Goldwyn from Ghost. I remember watching him with my mom watching Ghost. Like, I hated that dude. That dude was like, saying like, you killed Patrick Swayze, bro. Like, come on. Like, but he's like the nicest guy. Tony Goldwyn, like the sweetest man. And we and those girls, man, to be 12, 13 years old, come on set and you got Will Smith and all these other things, lights, camera, and like to be able to perform to the level that they did, like they're the movie. I mean, without that family, without that, it doesn't the movie doesn't reach the heights that it did.
I agree with that. that team that you guys assembled, that cast was unbelievable. It is unbelievable. The fact that, like you said, everybody has their lane and everybody is bringing their own expertise and their own game, and for the sake of the whole team. So when you get the whole team together, and then you got Will running that team. Yeah. It makes him excited too, because it's like, damn, I got to do my part, but I also know they gonna do their part too.
They're gonna do their part. But we did football. I mean, maybe that's the athlete in me. We ran a camp. The girls, their job. I remember when I met Sanaya, I was like, look, Sanaya, you're in LA. Demi's in New York. You call her every night. You're the oldest sister. That's your job. Right. Every night you got to call her. When we went, look, we were shut down for 5 months, 6 months with COVID. Every 2 weeks, we're going to do a Zoom. We're going to get on. We're going to talk about, and forget movie. Let's just talk about our lives as human beings, as Black folks in this community. Let's band together and talk about what are going on in our lives. We created a family. And I think there's nothing that could be said more than just, because now you're playing something else. You're just not going to the battle with cats you don't care about. Like, you literally, like, this is your sister, literally right. Off the court. And now she's your sister on the court. It only raises that level. And so we really did I think we did all of the things that you would do in a football camp, and like get to know each other, and icebreakers and group sessions to like really, I think we really loved each other, man. And it's rare. It doesn't always happen. Sure, you've been on teams where you like some cats more than others. And
it happens.
It just happens. It's by virtue of the city or where that person grew up. All right, cool. We're just different. And that's fine. This was like one of those things where every single person kind of loved each other. We got lucky. And maybe it's leadership, maybe it's combination of those things. I don't know. I'll take a little credit for sure.
Well, you had to direct it. You had to put the play together.
Put the play together.
And then they had to execute. So you had to draw the play up, and they had to execute.
I'm doing that play. I mean, I'm gonna take credit.
As you should. But we go, man. I can sit and talk to you about that movie all day, and just your other movies as well, man. But I want to bring it back, kind of full circle before we wrap up. I need to hear, or we need to hear, the audience need to hear, kind of like what you focusing on right now? Like what are you spending your energy on this year ahead? What else should we be looking, kind of out for and heading into 2022?
Yeah, so I just finished a limited series for HBO. It's called We Own This City, written by George Pelicanos and David Simon. Like I said, 20 years since The Wire. They're back in Baltimore.
Yeah.
So I think it's a real banger. It's coming out in April. It's starring some really, really amazing new cast. Daryl, Britt Gibson, Josh Charles, Jamie Hector, and of course our boy John Bernthal. McKinley Bleacher, if you like Ozark, like there's a lot
Absolutely.
of faces that you're gonna love. In this show, Dagmara, really, really, really. If you like Succession, I can't say her last name. It's like something crazy, but we got some real talented folks in that show, and it's an important subject matter. It's dealing with corruption within the Baltimore City Police, but it's dealing with it in a way that I think shows how far reaching these issues go. And I think that's what George and David do so well. So I'm really, really excited for you guys to see that, hopefully get behind it, hopefully share it. And then I'm attached to write and direct the Bob Marley biopic.
Wow.
I'm looking for Bob, right now we're very close on casting him. So I'm working with Ziggy and the family, Sadella and the family to honor their father. I mean, Bob's message to the world, I think there's no more important time than right now.
Absolutely.
And I think I stand by what as being a revolutionary of sorts. Growing up, my middle name is Marcus, named after Marcus Garvey. That was not an accident. My brother's middle name is Ernesto, after Ernesto Che Guevara. Like these were not accidents. My father was a revolutionary spirit, and his sons are now trying to pass the baton and tell stories that are meaningful to our communities, Black, Latino, and getting our voices out there and our stories told. So hopefully there'll be a lot more. Hopefully we'll be working together. I know you got some.
Listen, let's work, man. Let's work. I'm gonna give you I'm gonna get your information offline so we can keep in
please
contact.
do. And I want to come support you wherever. I'll
Absolutely.
take the leads up there. You just let me know. I'll come.
Likewise, likewise, man. I would appreciate that. I look forward to working with you on something for sure.
Likewise.
We're gonna bring it all full circle back to what's in your glass and the reason why we're actually here. I just have a few quick fire questions that I like to ask the guests, and we all have to know kind of what's in your glass on some occasions. If you're relaxing on a vacation, what's in your glass?
I'm doing a pina colada. I'm just going classic.
Okay.
Going classic, that coquito.
That's that boricua, that Bodie.
Yeah, that's when it comes out for sure. Bacardi. I'm gonna get that little straw hat, that little, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. If you out at a nice dinner at a restaurant, what's in your glass?
I'm definitely doing a red wine, Pinot. I'm definitely doing a Pinot, something like that. Depends. If I get a steak, I'll go a little heavier, do a little Malbec. I don't really know. Like, you could give me $2 Chuck, and I couldn't tell the difference between that and like $400. I'll probably choose the more expensive one because I hear it gives you less of a headache. But whatever looks nice. I like presentation. So if you give me the nice bottle, more than likely I'm gonna like what's inside.
Okay, perfect. If you're celebrating. Let me see, the premiere of your film, like King Richard. What's in your glass?
Look,
what's in your bottle? What's
I've
in the
never
glass?
had a Dom Perignon champagne. I've always wanted one, but I would say, look, maybe one day I'll get that bottle, or somebody will get it for me, and I'll drink to that. I like a nice champagne. I really do. I stick to the Verve, but I know there's some better glasses out there. So I'm waiting for Will or somebody to say, here you go, son.
Indeed, man. My brother, man, I just want to say thank you so much, man, for joining me for a glass a day. Reinaldo, and best of luck with everything you have going on right now. Good luck with the biopic of Bob. I'm sure you're gonna tap into something different when it comes to that. So I'm looking forward to that. And just thank you to the audience for tuning in this week. As you all know, please follow, rate, review. What's in your glass on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts at. You can also check the videos out on each week on YouTube. But we're gonna close this out right now with a cheers, a virtual cheers, my brother.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melo. Really appreciate you. Keep in touch.
Love, man.
Give you my email.
Indeed. Absolutely. We definitely I'll be reaching out to you. And for everybody who may want to know what I'm drinking, this is the bottle, Blood Root. Nice price. It was a nice price. It was very inexpensive.
Okay.
I found it. I don't know what it was. But whoever the winemaker of this.
I'm gonna take that screenshot right there. Snap.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I appreciate you, my brother, and I'll be in contact with you.
All right. Much love.
Peace.